Hey guys, it's Charlie, and you're watching Wednesday on Our Pagan Opinions. This week we're talking about socialism. Alright, so I'm going to try to keep this as brief as possible. I don't consider myself a very political person, first and foremost. I think that most politics are corrupt. However, if I were to label myself as anything, I would probably most closely align with democratic socialism. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and what I think should or could be beneficial. I can't say that I'm democratic as far as just like strict Democrat. I can say that I'm definitely not Republican. I don't agree with many of the things that Republicans believe in or have to say, but I also don't agree with everything that Democrats have to say. And yeah, I guess we'll just go from there. Now, socialism, I think, has a bad reputation from people who don't really know what it is. And I actually didn't really know what it was either until I had a psychology teacher who was just super awesome. He was so amazing. And he said one day, I'm democratic to the point borderline socialist. And I was really interested in what he meant, so I looked it up. And I realized, okay, this kind of aligns with my beliefs as well. So, I'm going to read you something from Wikipedia, because it'll say it much more eloquently than I ever could. Democratic socialism is a political philosophy and social movement that rejects centralized, elitist, or authoritarian means of transitioning from capitalism to socialism. Democratic socialism advocates for the immediate creation of decentralized economic democracy from the grassroots level, undertaken by and for the working class itself. The term is often used by socialists who favor spontaneous revolution from below or gradualist reformism over organized revolutionary socialism in effort to distinguish themselves from Leninist socialists who seek to organize a revolutionary movement by a vanguard party based on principles of democratic centralism. So you got to make sure that you are keeping those two separate. Democratic socialists endorse a post-capitalist socialist economic system as an alternative to capitalism. Some democratic socialists advocate market socialism based on the workplace self-management, while others support a non-market system based on decentralized participatory planning. Many contemporary democratic socialists reject centralized planning as a basis for democratic socialism. Socialism in and of itself, just general socialism, cannot be defined by one singular definition because there are so many different versions of socialism out there. So if anyone just says socialism, I don't agree with it because of this, chances are they're not defining socialism properly. They're defining a subgroup of socialism or a subcategory of socialism. I'm talking specifically about democratic socialism. An example of democratic socialism would be the police, like the county police or what am I trying to think of? Like the police department, there we go. The police department or the fire department, where everybody, all the citizens, pay into that particular resource or that particular program, for lack of a better word. And that way everybody has free and equal right to use those programs, for lack of a better word, should they need to. For instance, all of our tax money, some of it goes to the fire department. In the event that your neighbor's house starts on fire and they have to call the fire department, instead of having one large bill that they have to take care of because their house burned down, plus all of the stuff that you have to deal with if you lose your house, all of their neighbors, all of their fellow citizens in their whatever the boundaries are for that particular fire department have paid in to allow them to be able to use that as a resource. And I think that that is beneficial. That's on a small scale, of course. I think that it should be on a larger scale, such as college. I think that college should be free, just like how it is with public schools, public elementary, junior high schools or middle schools, and high schools. They say, and they argue, that everyone in America has equal rights and equal opportunity. And that is simply it looks good on paper, but it's simply not the case. The reason it's not the case is because studies have shown that people coming from upper middle class and wealthy families are going to have a better chance. They're already set up for success. It's just they're given birthright to be set up for success more than someone who's born into an impoverished family. And whether or not that's fair is, I guess, up to you guys to decide. I don't personally think that that is fair because someone is born into an impoverished family or into a wealthy family. Now, there are always outliers in any particular, anything you're talking about. So this isn't something that's 100% of the time, but the majority of, and generally speaking, someone who comes from a wealthier family or an upper middle class family is going to have a little bit better chance of getting into a good school or even finishing their high school career than someone who comes from an impoverished family. And the reason is just because of different social struggles and social hardships that come with being impoverished. I don't personally agree with what I refer to as welfare babies. It really does irritate me a little bit when people are on welfare and have no desire to come off welfare or no desire to better themselves, but the way that it's currently set up, at least in Wisconsin, it's almost better to be on welfare, and that's disgusting. That's how people take advantage of the system, and in a way it's not meant to be taken advantage of. When I was 18, I half moved out on my own, half got kicked out, and I was still in high school at the time. And I couldn't afford to go to school full-time and have a job to pay for rent. I was part of this government-funded program that basically would take teens who either had lost their home, not teens, that you had to be between 18 and 21, but young adults who had either become homeless or were at risk or were in unsafe environments at home. And they would basically put you up in an apartment with a roommate or two of people who were also in the program, and they would help you get everything that you needed to get in order to become financially independent. They would help you if you needed to finish high school, or if you had dropped out of high school and you needed to obtain your GED or your HSED, they would help you get the ball rolling on where to go for that. They would help you learn how to budget your money. They'd help you with certain life skills if you needed them, like everything from like homemaking to job interview things. And it was a really, really good program for people who took advantage of it in the way it was meant to be taken advantage of. So while I was doing that, I also was on state assistance for groceries. And then I became a little bit more financially independent as I got a little bit older. I think I was only with that program for about a year and a half. And then I was off of food share. Then we moved, fast forward a few years, I meet Nathan, we get together and blah, 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 blah. We moved to Madison to go to school, to go to college. And I find out I was pregnant. And at this time I'm in college, I have a part-time job to pay rent, and now I have all of these bills that I'm going to have to pay for medications, for doctor's appointments, because actually having a baby and going to all of the appointments every single month and toward the last trimester every single week, all of that, and plus the actual birthing of the baby, it's extortionate. So I needed assistance. Both of us needed assistance because he was actually out of work for a time, and I was working a part-time job trying to get into a full-time position, which I eventually did. So for about a period of a year and a half, the two of us were on several different state assistance programs. We had medical assistance, we had food assistance, we had WIC, which is Women, Infants, and Children, which is basically women who are pregnant or women who have children who are not married and do not have money to purchase healthy foods. They get on this program called WIC, and you have these vouchers to go get, like every month you get new vouchers, and some, you get like skim milk, or you have a voucher for like 16 ounces of cheese and like eggs and whole grain cereals and stuff. And it was always very healthy food. You couldn't get any junk food with it. And how those systems are designed to be set up is to basically allow people the opportunity to get their feet underneath them and start becoming financially independent, which is exactly what we did. We're now completely, and we have been for years, completely off all state assistance. I never had daycare assistance. Daycare is extremely expensive if any of you guys have kids. I've never had that. I'm completely off. Nozomi and I are now on my insurance through work, and Nathan has insurance through where he works. And we haven't been on food share since I don't even know how long, and I stopped WIC when I stopped nursing Nozomi. So that's how it's designed to be used, is basically to allow people to slowly migrate into financial independence if they were not given that opportunity in a traditional way. However, the way it's actually set up, that's the way it's supposed to work. The way it's actually set up is that the money that people get through state assistance for groceries and the money that people get through state assistance for medical assistance and for daycare assistance and for all these other things, it actually gives you more money to not work and to sit on your ass and not have a job and have the state pay for everything than it does to actually go out and get a job. When you're on state assistance and you don't have a job, you qualify for lower monthly payments on rent. You qualify for cheaper, if any, daycare. You qualify for free food. You qualify for all this stuff. The instant that you get a job, if you make, say, like $20,000 a year, which is very, very, very small, if you make $20,000 a year and you have a child, or say if you make like even $30,000 a year and you have a child, most daycare is probably around, ballpark figure, if you're doing full-time daycare, most is between $700 to $1,300 a month. That's expensive. Throw on top of that rent and all this other stuff, you guys do the math. Does it pay more to be struggling financially and have to pay for all this stuff and be getting behind in bills? No. The state, at least the state of Wisconsin, makes it so easy for people to leech off the system that it's disgusting. So there needs to be a whole rework in the way that that's done. Personally, this is a side topic. I think that anyone on welfare or anyone on state assistance should be drug tested. The reason that I believe that is because there are people who abuse the system and who leech off the system, and they sit, and the money that they do make, they spend on drugs. And additionally, if you're going to be on state assistance, you damn well better be looking for a job, and every single job that I know of, drug tests. So if you can't pass a drug test to get on welfare, you're not going to pass a drug test to get a job, so why should we support you if you're not even employable because you're doing drugs? So basically, that's my whole thought on that, but I'm digressing a little bit. As far as socialism is concerned, basically, democratic socialism is that you have this entire population of people who all pool very small amounts of money into a specific cause or a specific resource for everyone to be able to take advantage of. It's how, like I mentioned before, police departments and fire departments, that's how they're funded. And I think that that is definitely, I don't know, I personally think that that is a phenomenal way to go, because with the Republicans, okay, so I'm sure, and I mentioned this on Facebook a few weeks ago, I'm sure that there are stipulations and there are probably like so many layers upon layers upon layers of why this hasn't been done, but I know that this has been done in other countries. First of all, free college has been done in other countries, and if you look at the math, which I don't have in front of me right now, if you look at the math, in other countries that are offering free college to all of its citizens and all the other citizens are paying in a tax, people actually save money. It actually costs them less in taxes for their lifetime of taxes that they're paying from after they're a college graduate to the time that they retire. It costs them less in taxes to pay for other people's college at a very small percentage than it does for one to pay for college themselves through student loans and anything else that has to be paid back. So, for one, it's not that, oh, I'm paying for somebody else's college, what am I getting out of it? For one, you're getting free college out of it as well. And secondly, it's actually going to save you money in the long run on your education. So, that is happening in other countries. Another thing that's happening in other countries is shorter work weeks. Right now, like, the whole thing about why Republicans get a tax break or whatever, and they don't have to pay as many taxes, is because they have these big corporations and they're creating jobs, whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, that's why. I'm sure that there are other reasons why as well, but if that's one of the reasons why, I have an idea of how you can create more fucking jobs. Cut the work week in half. 20 hours a week, 20 to 30 hours a week. You just created half as many more jobs as you already had. So like 1.5% more to a full 2% more. Double. It's late at night, guys. It's time for my bedtime. So say you have, just for the sake of easy math, you have 100 jobs, right? You cut it down to 30 hours work week. You just created 150 jobs instead of 100 jobs. Or say you cut it down to 20 hours a week. You just created 200 jobs because you need double the people to fill those hours. Lower the cost of living so that people can live on a smaller 20-hour-a-week paycheck, whatever. If people want to have more disposable income and they want to work 2 full-time jobs at 20 hours a week apiece and work full 40 hours, more power to them. But 20-hour work week to 30-hour work, a 20-hour work week to a 30-hour work week is going to create, I'm so excited about this that I can't even get it out. A 20-hour-a-week work week to a 30-hour-a-week work week is going to create more empowered, more productive, happier employees. Because, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I don't have enough time to do everything that I want to do because I'm stuck at work for 40 to 50 hours a week. And it's work that I don't necessarily find as much pleasure in as I could in other areas of work, which are always in the process of me getting there, but that's beside the point. So anyway, there's that. Then next, tax everyone the same across the board, whether it's 20% or 25%, whatever. Everybody should get taxed the same. Because if you're taking a percentage out of someone's paycheck, they're still left with the leftover percentage. If you want more disposable income and you're pissed off because you're rich, then, I don't know, go to school, or you're pissed off because you're middle class, go to school, further your education, get a higher paying job, you'll have more disposable income. Yes, you'll be paying more in taxes, but you're going to have more disposable income to work with. You want more money? Get a higher paying job. Put yourself through the college that it takes to get a higher paying job. Plain and simple. So I don't know. To me, that seems like super simple, and like I said, there's probably layers upon layers upon layers of things of why that hasn't been done, and this isn't something that could be done in a year or even in 4 years. This would have to be something that was gradually worked into place over probably a decade, maybe even a decade and a half. I don't know. But anyway, yes, democratic socialism, if you guys don't know what that is, look it up. Like I said, socialism itself is far too broad for anyone to be able to pinpoint, so you really have to kind of break it down into the subcategories. I chose to talk a little bit about democratic socialism. I'm not that political, but if I were to label myself, that's where my views mostly fall in line, just because I think that that is what is, I believe in the intrinsic value, the intrinsic value, the inherent worth of every human being, and that everyone deserves dignity, and I think that that is most closely aligned with that particular belief. I don't think that, even though people can claim that it doesn't happen, it does happen, and there are studies out there. You can look them up online, you can look them up in any psychology book, anything on any statistics book, anything you want, that if children are born into impoverished families, they have a higher risk of failure than those born into wealthy families. And it has to do a lot with their upbringing, with parents having to work 2, 3, 4 jobs and not being home as often. And that is so unfortunate. And it's just, it happens. That's what happens. And it doesn't happen all the time, of course, but generally speaking, someone who's born into an impoverished family has more social hardships and has a more easy time failing and not making it even through high school than someone who is born in upper middle to upper class society and given the tools that they need without the stress that children shouldn't really have to be put through, that children and teens shouldn't have to be put through. I don't think that children and teens should have to get jobs. Well, children, of course not, but like teens, I don't think that they have to get jobs. Maybe maybe senior year, a part-time job, a very part-time job, just to kind of get them used to working and used to having a good work ethic. But as far, or maybe like a paper route or something, but as far as I don't personally think that it's necessarily fair for a child or a student, high school student, to have to work 20 to 30 hours a week outside of the normal school, because that's a full-time job in and of itself. I'm rambling at this point. I agree with democratic socialism, and I think that that would be a good idea on paper, but as we all know, with anything politics, everything's good on paper, anything can be good on paper. Once it's put into practice, there you have it. But the way I see it, everything's corrupt anyway, so take that as you will. And I love you all. I will talk to you all soon. Next week, actually. Blessed be.